So today we'll do chapter 5 of Sefer Yetzira, and the previous two chapters, together with today's chapter, deal with the three groups within the Hebrew alphabet. There are 22 letters, and Sefer Yetzira breaks them up into three groups. First, the three mothers, which are the letters Aleph, Mem, and Shin, which represents Aleph Avir, Mem Mayim, Shin Eish. The three mothers are primeval elements that the interaction between them represents the totality of the world. Two opposing forces, fire and water, and that which is between them, the air. The Chapter 4 dealt with the 7 letters called the Gvulot, the 7 double letters, Beged Kefret, Bet Gimel Daled, Kuf Pei Reish Taf, which are the 7 letters that could appear with or without a dagesh, and Sefer Yetzira sees them as the dialectic between the hard and the soft, which Sefer Yetzira identifies with the weak and the strong. And as he pointed out, soft is strong in Sefer Yetzira, and hard is weak. Today, the chapter will deal with the third and largest category, which are called the pshutot, the 12 simple letters that don't have any particular characteristic. They're not the imaot and they're not the gvulot. And these, so we'll deal with these 12 letters. But each of these letters, as we see, are connected to different qualities, different time periods, and different parts of the human body. Okay, so we'll begin with the first Mishnah of the 5th chapter. Shtem pshutot, 12 simple letters. The Hey, the Vav, the Zayin, the Chet, the Tet, the Yud, Lamed, Nun, Samach, Ayin, Tzadi, Kuf. And these are connected, Yisodן, their foundation, are related to 12 different actions, or maybe better to say qualities, which are Shicha, which is speech, harehor, thought, Haloch, walking or motion, Ráya, seeing, Shmi'a, hearing, מעשה, doing, Tashmish, marital intercourse, Reach, smell, Shiנה, sleeping, Rogez, anger, לעיטה, taste, and שחוק, laughter. So these 12 letters, each of them underlie another component of life, how we live and how we live our lives. Now, the second Mishnah deals, the second Mishnah repeats these 12 letters. Shtem pshutot, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Chet, Tet, Yud, Lamed, Nun, Samach, Ayin, Tzadi, Kuf, Yisodן, and yet again sees another aspect of the foundation of these letters, not the connection to these 12 qualities that will be discussed later, but something connected to space. The gvulei אלכסון, the 12 boundaries. And in terms of thinking of space, we know that we live in a 3-dimensional world. Now, 3-dimensional world means that there's 6 directions, above, below, and then, of course, east, west, north, south. But so there's 6 directions, but the 6 directions are, if we look at a cube has 6 sides to it, paralleling 6 directions, but the cube itself is built by 12 lines. Like here we have a 3-dimensional object, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That we could look at a cube as 12 lines that are formed together to create a cube. And what the message of this Mishnah will be that we could look at space as 12 imaginary lines that keep expanding. And that's why 12 is considered to be a cosmic number, because of the structure of space, which is perceived here as 12 imaginary lines, that imaginary cube that keeps getting bigger and bigger. So we'll read it now inside in the Hebrew. Gvul Mizrachit Romit. We have the eastern, the boundary on the east high up. Gvul Mizrachit Tzfonit. Gvul Mizrachit Tachtit. Gvul Dromit Romit. Gvul Dromit Mizrachit. Gvul Dromit Tachtit. Gvul Marvit Romit. Gvul Marvit Dromit. Gvul Marvit Tachtit. Gvul Tzfonit Romit. Gvul Tzfonit Marvit. Gvul Tzfonit Tachtit. So we just enumerated the 12 lines. Of course, the 4 directions, and each of the 4 directions is the upper line, or the line going up, the line going down, the higher or the lower line. So the 12 lines, and now we say ומתרחבין והולכין. These 12 imaginary lines, which form the imaginary cube, which is space, expand, והולכין, expand and go, ad, until all infinity. So now we have a connection between space and time. The space that keeps getting bigger as these 12 imaginary lines keep spreading out. And this continues going on for all eternity. Ve'hein gvulot olam. And these are the boundaries of the world of space. And what of course I find so interesting here is yet another point of contact between the way the universe is perceived in Kabbalah to that of modern cosmology. We know in terms of the Big Bang, the image of a center point which keeps expanding is really captured over here. I'll mention the Zohar begins the beginning of Parshat Bereshit talking about a single point of creation, the butzina de kardinuta, the spark of darkness, and that central point becomes expanding, and the entire universe is formed from that point. And here we have somewhat a continuation. Of course, Sefer Yetzira is earlier than the Zohar, but we have that other side. The Zohar talks about that initial first point that all expands from. Here we talk about a eternally expanding universe of the 12 imaginary lines of that cube that gets bigger and bigger, which is so similar to views of modern cosmology developed from the ideas of the Big Bang. Right? You know, I grew up on the west side of Manhattan. Now in the Hayden Planetarium, they have an amazing exhibit that you see the universe at different points. It's how large it is, and see this process of the boundaries of the world getting bigger and bigger. Okay, now we'll do to the third Mishnah. Just skip the next one, because that's somehow a mistake connected to the previous chapter. 12 pshutot. Okay. Yet again, the 12 simple letters, the Hey, the Vav, the Zayin, the Chet, the Tet, the Yud, Lamed, Nun, Samach, Ayin, Tzadi, Kuf. Yisodן, their foundations. Chakakan, these letters are carved out. Chatzvan, removed from where they're being carved out from. Shaklan, measured. Tzarfan, combined. V'mimran, and transformed. This is a phrase which we've seen constantly throughout Sefer Yetzira, so we won't develop it now, but the process in which the letters emerge and form, going back to the view that all language comes from that initial breath, the one breath of God, that what the breath is oneness, unity, and from the breath, each letter emerges, just like in human speech, physiologically, that one breath, depending how we let the ear out, create separate letters. So it's carving out of that ear and creating the letters, what's being referred to here. And issues of weighing is and permutation is connected to different ideas relating to gematria and the like. Anyway, but now we have a tsar behem, and we depict 12 mazalot ba'olam, 12 constellations in space, 12 chadashim b'shana, 12 months of the year, 12 manigim benefesh zachar v'nekeva. And 12 things that lead in the nefesh, masculine and feminine.
What is that?
Okay, so again, we're following that same structure of all Sefer Yetzira, that the world has three basic dimensions, which are called time, olam, which means world, which is referring to space, shana, literally year, but referring to time, and nefesh, soul, which refers to the totality of each of our humanity, which is both body and soul. There is not the differentiation between nefesh as our spiritual side and our physical side, and the fullness of nefesh is zachar v'nekeva, expressing that the one in Judaism is not the individual, the one is male and female together, as in the pasuk, v'davak b'ishto vayu lebasar achad. You cleave to his wife and becomes one flesh. Yes, Shimshon.
If it's stating here like these different explanations of the 12 letters of how they can be chachaku v'chatzvan, why not just, then they're all basically just part of this one sugya, as in like, it's not shtem yisodot, like these 12 letters like, are not just chachaku v'chatzvan, shekel v'chatzvan, like they're individually all these things. It's not like one category, nachon?
Right. I mean, each of the 12 has a unique characteristics and stands behind a unique aspect of time, space, and soul. But right, so they're pshutot in the sense that they don't belong to the first two categories of the mothers or the double letters.
Excuse me?
Yes.
I have two questions. One of them is the beginning, the 12 aspects that we related to. I don't know if we're going to expand upon them, but when it says shtem pshutot, does that mean like that these 12 things are the simple things in life, the main?
I think it's simply a contrast to the fact that the first two categories have a special aspect to them. 3 letters that are mothers, the letters that are the doubles, and these are not that and not that, but each one is certainly very profound and special, as we'll see. Mm-hmm.
And the second is, you explain that the shtem minagim nefesh zachar nekeva is the oneness, but why 12? What does the number 12 have to do with the oneness of the...
No. Within the nefesh, within one person, one nefesh, the one nefesh includes our spiritual and our physical, the masculine and the feminine. These are all nefesh. Now, nefesh itself have different aspects that are reflected. In chapter 3, we saw how the aleph, mem, and shin are all reflected in nefesh. The last chapter, we saw how the 7 gvulot were reflected in nefesh. And now we'll see 12 other aspects of nefesh. But the main... Rafi?
I didn't really understand the nefesh thing. Nefesh is just like the compilation of like zachar nekeva, body, spirit, all like those things kind of meshed in one.
In the basic dimensions, space is a dimension, all of space. Time is a dimension. And Adam, I would say the best word I would use would be Adam. Human. Human is a dimension. But when we say human, what are we talking about? Just like space, we talk about the totality of space. With human, we talk about the totality. Now that totality includes both body and soul. Here we're going to be talking about different organs in the body, whereas elsewhere we spoke about good and evil in connection to nefesh. But also, Sefer Yetzira always stresses, when talking about nefesh, zachar v'nekeva, masculine and feminine. That even when we talk about that parallel of time and space, which is soul, which is nefesh, which is Adam, there, when we're talking about Adam, it's the whole Adam. The whole Adam, just like the whole Adam is body and soul, the whole Adam is masculine and feminine. Okay, and now the basic...
Nefesh, like nefesh is Adam.
Nefesh is Adam, Shana is time, and Olam is space. You know, we're just thinking about in Shabbat. This is an incredibly important structure, the time-space Adam. For example, just something recently, we're learning Shabbat in Yeshiva. Now, Shabbat is about holiness, being present in time. In Shabbat, we're not allowed to talk or plan things later in the week, and we don't do malacha, because when you do actions, it's in order to, because you want to create a future, and you're not accepting the present that you're in right now. But Shabbat is all about space. The Shabbat in space. In the yeshiva, we're learning Melachet Hotzah, that goes back to the pasuk, Al Yetzei Ishim Komo. Don't go out of your place on Shabbat. On Shabbat, you have to be present in your place. So you have to be present in time, in the present. You must be present in your space. And in that space that you have, that sacred space and sacred time of the Shabbat, in your home, Shabbat enters by lighting the candles of Shabbat. When the candles of Shabbat are reflective of the soul. So we have the linkage, because in Tehillim it says that the soul is the Ner Elohim. Our soul is the flame is the candle of God. In fact, it's even Zachar v'Nekeva, it's even masculine and feminine. We know we light 2 candles on Shabbat, and the reason why 2 candles is connected to the Zachor and Shamor, because in the Aseret Dibrot, the first time it said Zachor et Yom HaShabbat lekadsho, and the second time Shamor et Yom Shabbat lekadsho, and the Zachor and Shamor, the remembering and the keeping, as early as the Sefer Behir, and later in the Sefer, the Kabbalistic book Tolat Yaakov, is connected to the fact that Shabbos has a masculine and feminine side, because the oneness of Shabbat is the including of the masculine and the feminine. In fact, the Shla Kadosh says that the numerical value of Ner is 250. 2 Nerot is 500. Now, according to Jewish tradition, a male has 248 limbs. When we say Ramach Evarim, 248 limbs, we're talking about the male, where women have 252 parts of the body. Therefore, together, it's 500. And those are the 2 Nerot of Shabbat. So Shabbat is time, space, and soul all linked together. So it's in almost every area of study, this structure, time, space, and soul, and human, there is a way to really look at something, a total picture of something. And one of the messages is that there's always a parallel. Whatever you find in time, you'll find the parallel in space, and you'll find the parallel in human. Okay, now the next, this chapter till the end, we're going to do this quite fast, because I'll mention the basic structure. The basic structure will be to take the 12 letters, each one of them to connect to a different one of the 12 qualities that we mentioned earlier, and then to connect each of the letters to something in time, to something in space, and then to something in the body. So we see that in the 4th Mishnah, Shnei Meser Mazlot B'olam, the 12 constellations in space. Okay, Tela, Shor, To'omim, Sartan, Aryeh, Betula, Maznaim, Akrav, Keshet, Gdi, Dli, and Dagim. We have the zodiac. There's been a debate in Judaism about how to relate to astrology. The Rambam was vehemently, I think, believe against astrology. The Even Ezra did believe that there's truth in astrology.
Why didn't the Rambam?
The what?
Why didn't the Rambam buy into it?
I think the Rambam we know is very much was a rationalist, and ideas that seeing that the cosmos, the Ram does talk about the Galgalim, about the cosmos, but he felt that this is something, seeing that a role of the different constellations of impacting on life was something the Rambam, I guess, felt problematic. We know the Talmud has an interesting approach to this issue. The Talmud says, Ein mazal Yisrael. Now, Ein mazal Yisrael doesn't mean that we don't have luck. It means that the mazalot, there isn't astrology for the Jewish people, which means that there is some sort of order and in the world. There's stories that in the Talmud, people would look in the stars and see things that would happen in the future. But the message would be that of the Talmud is that, but the Jewish people, because we have free will, our ability to choose and do good means that we could change. There might be whatever fate is destined in the stars, we are not subjugated to it, and we have the power to change our destiny. And there you had the beautiful story about the daughter of Rabbi Akiva, that the astrologist told Rabbi Akiva that we see in the stars, your daughter will die on her wedding night. And the story tells that it came to the wedding of Rabbi Akiva's daughter, and a poor man comes to the wedding, and she's the only person who notices him, so she gives him her portion so he could have something to eat. That night she goes to sleep, she takes out her hairpin, sticks it into the wall. When she wakes up in the morning, she takes out the hairpin and sees that she stuck it right into a snake. Now,
I heard it was like in her hair, and she like went to like put it back, and there were like two hairpins, and she stuck in both of the eyes. That's the version.
Well, okay, so you can read it. I believe it's Shabbat Daf Kuf Nun Hey or Kuf Nun Vav, so we could check it inside. Now, and then Rabbi Akiva saw the story and said Rabbi Akiva went out and taught Tzedakah Tatzil Mimavet, charity saves from death. Meaning the Talmud does seem to believe that there is some sort of a destiny that can even be seen in the stars, but our destiny is not fate. It's not something that has to be. That we do have the ability to change that what will happen to us because of our ability to do good and evil. Okay, so it's like a middle approach relating to astrology.
How does that interplay with Goyim? Are they not able to change their...
Okay, so it's... so I'll give you an interpretation that I've even written about. There was a famous historian called Arnold Toynbee. He had a theory about how civilizations develop and decline. Now, his theory worked with everybody except for the Jewish people, because according to his theory, 2,000 years ago, the Jewish people were supposed to have disappeared. Now, if you're a scholar, how do you solve this problem? You don't change your theory. You just decide that the Jewish people don't exist. And therefore, he was a rabid anti-Zionist. In fact, there's a famous debate between him and Yaakov Herzog, who was then at University McGill. It's written there's a book called A People That Dwell Alone, about the different speeches of Yaakov Herzog. If anyone's interested, I have a copy in my house. If it reminds me, I'll try to remember to bring it. And there they go through a debate about, do the Jewish people exist? But after studying that passage in the Talmud, I thought, you know what, Toynbee's not alive anymore, but I would tell him that, you were right. Meaning, what's your theory? Your theory says that, maybe not on a personal level, but in terms of civilizations, there's some laws about civilizations, how laws that govern society. And you're right about them. The fact that the Jewish people didn't fit in, it doesn't mean that your theory is wrong. It means that the Jewish people somehow are outside those laws of history. And I think that's a statement which I think is very much true. Look at the amazing story of the Jewish people, and you do get the feeling that there's something going on beyond the natural laws of history.
Was Toynbee accepted, like in the world of history?
He was very, very, very prominent in his time.
Yeah. When was that time?
I guess it was obvious. It must have been the 50s and 60s because right. Unfortunately, Yaakov Herzog died prematurely. In fact, the Machon Herzog that we know is named after him. And his brother was Chaim Herzog, who was the the president of Israel, ambassador to the UN, and their father was Rabbi Herzog, the chief rabbi of Israel. Okay, now the 5, 12 חודשים בשנה, Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz, Av, Elu, Tishrei, Mar Cheshvan, Kislev, Tevet, Shvat, Adar. 12 months of the year. That's obvious, the 12 Hebrew months. What's interesting to point out that here of the year from a Jewish perspective, meaning not starting from Tishrei, which is the time that according to Jewish tradition the world was created, but with Nisan, the month that Jewish history begins with the leaving of Egypt. Finally, 6, we get 12 manigim benefesh zachar v'nekeva, shtei yadayim, in the body of 2 hands, shtei raglayim, or 2 legs, shtei klayot, are 2 kidneys, mara dakin, our mara, our gallbladder, dakin, intestines, kaved, liver, korkavan, the holy korkavan, not quite sure what that would be in English. The kaveh, stomach, and tuchol. Okay, let's see. I have the Ari Kaplan translation here. Hopefully that can help. Oh, he translates the korkavan as the korkaban. Okay. Okay, so I guess now the rest of the chapter, as I said, is linking it all together. In Chassidut is very into this. Chassidut is very into taking, what will now happen, we'll have a letter connected to a quality, to a month, to a constellation, to a part of the body. And Hasidic thought, especially Rav Tzadok, also we have a book called the Bnei Yisachar. They love talking about, discussing, giving all sorts of very beautiful meanings to these connections. But some of the connections are things that are really clear and obvious, and some of them seem to be more homiletic. So I think we're not going to do all of them. I'll share with you some of those connections that I feel are more famous, or at least more seem to be based in the text rather than something homiletic, which is not necessarily the original intent of the text. Yes, Rafi?
The way that they connect to the constellation, and I forget the other ones that you mentioned, are you going to explain how those connect to like which one refers to the dimension of time and which one to space?
Yes, so the rest of the chapter does it all. So first of all, you're all welcome to take these pages and you'll be able to see it all. We're going to do some of them. Because, let's see, in Mishnah Zayin, Himlich ot hey b'sicha. Hey, the letter hey is connected to speech. Hey. V'kashar lo keter, and there's a crown on the letter hey. V'tzarfan zelazeh v'tzarbem, and we drew tela bolam. Tela is like a ram in the world. Nisan b'shana, v'regel yamin b'nefesh zachar v'nekeva. So here we could see part of it. We know that a tleh, a ram, is something when we're talking about Pesach, that we bring a korban Pesach. So it works out nicely that the constellation connected to Nisan, the month of Pesach, is a tleh. And relating to speech, I think already the Ariya Kadosh talks about this teaching in Sefer Yetzira, darshaning the word Pesach as Pesach. Pe, the mouth, Sach, it speaks, seeing that the essence of Pesach is about the speaking, telling the story of Mitzrayim. And also nice that we start off with Regel Yamin, starting with your right foot, right? We start the new year with your right foot. Okay?
Maybe that's where it came from.
But okay. Got it, okay. So we're going to skip a little bit, and here you can take the text, but a lot of the text, I want to try to focus on those things that are more prominent. In the end of Mishnah Chet, there's Himlich ot Yud b'maseh. The letter Yud is connected to action. V'kasher lo keter, the end of the 8th Mishnah. V'kasher lo keter, and we tie a crown. V'tzarfan zeh b'zeh. v'tsar bem betula ba'olam, virgin in the world, ve'elul b'shana, v'yad small b'nefes zachar v'nekeva. So there's some connections here that are really beautiful. To connect Elul with Betula, both in terms of seeing that the world being created really began in Elul. When we talk about the first day of Tishrei as creation, that's really often seen as creation of humanity, which is really when all the world has been set up already. The creation process begins in Elul. Elul is really a time of beginning, especially in Yeshiva. Yeshiva begins, the yeshiva year begins with Elul. So having a beginning, virgin, at the beginning is very appropriate to Elul, as the letter Yud. Yud is again a central point from which all begins. And then if we continue, 9, Himlich ot lamed b'tashmish. Lamed connected tashmish. Tashmish is marital intercourse. V'kasharlo keter. V'tzarfan ze b'zeh. V'tzarbem moznayim ba'olam. Scales in the world. V'tishrei b'shana. Mara b'nefes zachar v'nekeva. A connection between scales and Tishrei also is obvious. Tishrei is the time of Yemei Hadin, the time of judgment. Tishrei, all of humanity is judged for the new year, so a symbol of scales to represent Tishrei is something which is very natural. But even more so, Kabbalistically, the idea of the scales is even more significant. There's the essential part of the Zohar called Sefer Yetzira. And there it talks about it's very much based on Sefer Yetzira. And there the powerful image that's given as an image of creation and connected to the month of Tishrei is that of a scales. And the scales is because of it's not just a question of justice in the way that we understand it. It's the scales is seen as scales of, for the world to exist, there has to be a balance. And Sefer Yetzira teaches that the world wasn't able to achieve form and formation and substance until a balance was created. And the primary balance, which is essential for the world to exist, is the balance between male, female in all of its connotations. It doesn't only mean men and women. In its broadest sense, of these two powerful forces that in some ways are opposites, in other ways they're forming linkage together, creates new things. Gets back to which is what we see in often Sefer Yetzira about the fire and the water and the balance needed between them. So the scales, the cosmic scales, is about a balance in the world itself. Now, since this balance is connected to male-female, that's why that part of the Zohar is called Sefer Yetzira, because tzniut talks about that which is hidden, but hidden in the connotations of sexuality. So to see that the full balance, the reason why marriage is so significant in Judaism is because we see that something cosmic in a balance, in the proper balance and connection between male and female is a microcosm of the balance and harmony and the unity of the universe itself. So that's why Tishrei, the symbol of Tishrei, is the moznayim, is the scales, and the quality of Tishrei is tashmish, of marital relations. We'll also mention that Tishrei, in many ways, is the inner scales. The significant point is the center point. In fact, the theme we've seen throughout Sefer Yetzira is the important point is not the highest point, rather the center point. In fact, Tishrei, the 7th month, the way it's broken in Sefer Yetzira, reflects the middle of the year. Tishrei is the center. Aleph Tishrei is exactly the midpoint of the year. If the year begins with Aleph Nisan and ends with Lamed Adar, the center point of the year is Aleph Tishrei. So again, going back to the sacred center, which is the balancing point. In fact, and this connects us to the letter Lamed. Lamed is the center letter, it's the highest letter in the alphabet, and also the central letter. There are 22 letters, and Lamed is the 12th. With an even number, it would be the 11th and 12th, but letter number 12 is in fact the Lamed, okay? That's why in Shalom, we have the Lamed. Actually, I never even thought, it's so obvious, never thought of this before. If we're always talking about Shalom as linking together the fire and the water, the Shin, which is the fire, the Mem, which is the water, what does that? The Lamed. The Lamed, which according to Sefer Yetzira itself, which is the source of the concept of Shalom as forging water and fire together, Sefer Yetzira teaches us that the Lamed is the Tashmish, the linking, the linking together, the binding together. Okay, so we see that we have a new chidush in studying this chapter. Okay, now we'll skip a little bit. Okay, afterwards we'll skip to the month of Kislev. Imlich ot samach b'shena. The quality of the month of Kislev is sleeping. V'kashar lo keter v'tarfan ze b'zeh v'tzar bem keshet b'olam v'kislev b'shana v'keva b'nefesh zachar v'nekeva. One point here that I could see on a simple level is fully understood is why Kislev would be the time of sleep, because Kislev is the month that the nights are the longest. The longest nights are Kislev. So this is a time of sleep. Maybe it would explain why the next month after Kislev would be Imlich ot ayin berogez. Rogez can be anger, ani rugaz, but rogez is also sometimes we have taking something energetic, getting up. So the next month after the sleep of Kislev to Rogez, some sort of active waking up, a little bit tense, filled with tense and anger, but that's the Tevet. And maybe we'll end with the last month. The last month is Adar, of course. So at the end of this list will be Imlich ot Kuf b'Shchok. The letter Kuf represents Shchok, laughter. V'kashar lo keter. V'tzarfan ze b'zeh. V'tzar bem dagim ba'olam. V'adar b'shana. Utchol b'nefesh zachar v'nekeva. The quality of Adar is laughter, which is marvelous, because of course we have Adar is the month of Purim. In fact, I once heard that Rav Shlomo Carlebach explain about laughter in Purim. He says, joy is when things turn out better than expected. That's joy. But things are still in the normal proportions. When something just goes out of all proportions, that's not just joy, that's laughter. And if the Jewish people were saved in Purim, that would be joy. But the v'nafachu, everything turned around, just breaking out of the boundaries, that's laughter. And I think it's a gevalt that we have 12 months to the year, and the last month is Adar. We know in Judaism, Malim B'Kodesh, we believe that we always go up and up, right? That means the 12th month is obviously the holiest month. So never forget, the holiest month of the year is Adar. Okay? And the holiest quality is laughter. And in fact, in a Jewish leap year, when they do 1 month twice, you have 12 possibilities what month to have a first and second. And what month did they pick? Adar. So if you want to double it, go for that holiest month, which is the holy month of Adar. Yes?
You said that you were using the example of the word shalom, how that's linking. Isn't the word shalem also work? The shalem, lamed being linking.
Great, right, for sure. It works in great, and I should have mentioned instead of shalem. Shalom is connected to the idea of shalem, because it's not peace. It's not just that we're not killing each other, but we found something whole. And of course, having the fire, the water, and the lamed is the letter that connects. In Shalom itself, Vav is also a letter that connects. In Hebrew, Vav is what's mitchaber. So we have the fire and the water connected with the lamed, connected with the Vav, and together it's lamed Vav, which is the tzaddik, the lamed Vav tzaddikim, and tzaddikim are also that what in Judaism tzaddikim are the connectors. We know tzaddik yisod olam. Tzaddikim are the yisod of the olam, the connectors of heaven and earth, and even yisod is often identified in Kabbalah to the male organ about the connecting between male female, which is also considered called shalom. Sof davar hakol nishma et Elohim yira ve'et mitzvotav shmor ki ze kol ha'adam.